Hey everybody, Mike from Mass Construction checking in. What we're going to do right now is I'm going to post a response to my colleague Joe Kelly's poll that was posted on LinkedIn. I'll actually put the screenshot of the poll here up in the corner so you can see it. And then Joe Kelly on LinkedIn, you can go ahead and find the actual poll and the results of the poll there. But let's talk about it. So what Joe did was he posted a poll that asked the question, "Why is permitting so difficult?" And I'm paraphrasing, "Why is permitting such a mess in Massachusetts?" And he gave three options for the reason, and it was the municipality, the contractor, or the inspector. Who bears the responsibility for this being a bad experience, which unfortunately is almost across the board within the state. It's a bad experience for permitting. I don't agree with the way that the poll came out, and I'll explain. For those of you that know me and those of you that don't, I'll just explain real quick. I was a building official for 20 years, and I've worked in the big town, I've worked in the small town, I've worked in the big city, I've worked in the little city, and all that time I kind of sat and I watched and I observed my peers, my supervisors, politically, administratively, I watched contractors and developers interactions. It's just kind of how I operate. I just observe. Um, and over 20 years, I gained an understanding of how these things work, how building departments operate. So what I'm going to do is share my view on, why this poll went the way that it did, and what I think actually is the case with building departments, and why the permitting situation is so dire in the state of Massachusetts. So first, let's touch on the municipality. Um, 80% was the poll number, I believe, that came out with the municipality. And I think that's a high number for the municipality to absorb. I know why it's there more than likely, because the municipality is the lead. They hire the building inspector. They're in charge of the building department. So I think that may be the case. And I know we had a lot of building officials that chimed in that don't feel they get the support. So let me get into that a little bit. So the municipality hires the building official. They hire the building inspector. And in some departments, they hire a building commissioner and then building inspectors as well. But there's also admins in that department. So first and foremost, the municipality needs to make sure they're hiring the correct person. They need to make sure they're getting behind the correct horse in the race. That person they hire is a person that should be advancing the service that's available to the public. They need to make sure that that person is, in fact, a public servant, and they're helping the public obtain what they need. The building department is a business, right? And the product is permits and inspections. And just like any other business, if you go in for a service and your experience is bad, you're going to get a bad review. You're going to get a bad rap, right? So whether it's permitting or inspections, uh, the town, the city, the municipality needs to make sure they're putting somebody in that department that's actually going to lead that department, whether it's an individual or whether it's multiple people. They need to make sure that that person is going to represent the municipality positively. Um, the other thing is, though, the municipality needs to support that person. Once you get somebody in there, technology, they need to make sure that people are trained, and they need to make sure they support that financially, training financially. Building codes are technical. Building codes are very thorough, very dense. They need to make sure people are trained and can enforce the code appropriately. And then they need to make sure there's backup. A lot of times, the building department gets themselves into situations where they're making decisions and there are appeals and there are court cases. They need to make sure that the town, the municipality, needs to make sure that the town or the city is backing these people up so they're confident in making their decisions. If their decisions are, in fact, not egregious or they're not, arbitrary, and they're making the correct decision, the town needs to make sure they have the backup for these people. And that doesn't happen all the time. Additionally, and hopefully there's some town administrators and some town leaders out there that listen to this. A lot of times, building officials are fighting with people in town hall and outside town hall, so it puts a lot of weight on them. Um, Mass general law actually sets it up so that the building official in Mass general law, is supposed to report directly to the appointing authority. So they're supposed to report to the town administrator if they're the appointing authority, the board of selectmen, or the mayor for that matter. There isn't supposed to be anybody in the middle. No community development, no planning director, no, whoever other engineering director, whoever it might be. If that's another layer that this building official needs to go through for whether it's permitting systems or appeals or whatever it might be, that's adding to the red tape. That's adding to the delay in permits. That's adding to the aggravation that takes place every day in the building department. So municipalities are not doing it this way. They're trying to compact departments. They're trying to, combine departments, and a lot of times it's causing problems when it gets to asking for resources in the building department, asking for training. So that needs to be something that's looked at as well. So even though I just went over that, do I think the municipality shares 80% of the responsibility for how bad permitting is? From the standpoint that the higher the person, maybe. But from carrying out the permitting process, the building official is the expert. The building official is the face. They're the forward-facing, they're the forward-facing personnel that deal with the public. So I don't think the municipality actually should take that much responsibility, right? But I understand why. I understand the perception why. And I understand why building officials 100% would say, look, we don't have the training, we don't have the resources, we're overworked. And I understand why they would say the municipality is responsible. I get it. I 100% get it. Moving on. Let's go to contractor. Contractor came in second in the poll, and I forget what the percentage was. But so do I think the contractor should be second? Maybe. I think everybody shares a little bit of responsibility here, but let's just get into the contract. I think the contractor probably shares the least responsibility because regardless of how much of and I'm going to just say it, how much of an asshole you think a contractor is, how much the municipality, or how much the building official thinks he is, the building department does this on a daily basis. That's their responsibility. When I, interviewed for any job, I would always tell the people who are doing the interview, what I've realized is you deal with a lot of different people. You deal with people who don't know and need help. You deal with people who know but just don't care. They're lazy. They don't want to pull the permits, but they do, and they're not going to put the effort in, right? And then you deal with people who wake up in the morning and go, "I'm screwing somebody today." Right? They're gonna do everything they can to aggravate and agitate because they're just don't want to deal with the permitting process, just don't want to deal with the building official, whether that's a previous bad experience they had, or they're just jackasses. That could be it as well, right? So you meet a lot of different people. On the contractor side, you need to be prepared. You need to have a positive attitude regardless of the situation. And if you follow the rules, you're being, respectful, and you're calling for inspections and securing permits the way that you're supposed to, then the building official should give you that same respect back. Problem is, there's a few bad actors out there that go in. It's their rights, and they're creating a problem for everybody else because they're just agitators. All right, so be respectful, call for the inspections, and you should get that respect back. Now, there's people that just don't know, and the building official is supposed to be there to assist these people. The issue with people not knowing is not just that they're lazy. Every municipality is different. Every permitting system just about is different. The submittal requirements is different. How can you expect somebody who deals in 6, 7, 8, 9 different municipalities to remember each and every municipality that, the submittal requirements? It's very difficult, right? And I'm not justifying it because there are people who go to the same town every single day and are just lazy and don't submit the proper information. And I get that as well, right? But it is tough on the contractor side that you don't know what necessarily the submittal requirements are. You go into the building department and they say your permit's incomplete. Well, why? Well, that's your responsibility to find out, right? You've heard that before, and I get that as well. So the contractor should first communicate, ask what the requirements are. If it's not in black and white on the website or at the building department, ask, Communicate, right? And once again, it brings us back to the same thing. If you're asking, you're trying to communicate, and you're not getting that respect back, let's go back to the municipality and backing the right horse, right? And that right horse includes the administrative staff, the inspectors, the commissioner, whoever it might be in that building department. So ask, communicate, try to do the right thing. If you're walking in there and you're saying, you know, where's my permit? I think I have everything. I know I submitted everything correctly. I want my permit. I paid for it. That's going to go over really, really bad, like a lead balloon, right? So you have to understand people going into building departments as an individual, you are walking in there to secure a building permit to people who deal with a lot of people during the day. They deal with the public, they deal with people in town hall, they're dealing with their hours, their wages, they're dealing with complaints in court cases. So you walking in demanding service is probably not the best way to go about it. It's going to go sideways really, really quick. But if you're walking in there respectful, you're asking the questions, you're being polite, I'm not asking you to, kneel down and kiss the ring, but at the same time, give them the respect that you deserve back. And if you're not getting that back, then there's something wrong, there's something broken, and that's one of the problems that there is with permitting. All right, so contractors need to understand, try to be prepared, communicate, understand that you're being judged based on some of the bad actors that are out there, which shouldn't be the case. And just do the right thing. Call for inspections, be timely, understand, what the constraints are on the other side of the desk with the building official, with the administrators dealing with a lot of people, and just do the right thing. If you're not getting that respect back, we'll probably do another video on what happens when you're not getting satisfaction and it's warranted. But there are reasons for why you may not be getting a permit and why you think you should be getting a permit. But again, follow suit, pay respect. I shouldn't say pay respect. Be respectful, and the building department should follow up with that respect and that professionalism. So that's the contractor. I think there are bad actors out there. I think they share some responsibility. They're in difficult times here with electronic permitting and everybody being a little bit different with submitter requirements. So we have to understand that. But, don't demand respect. Don't walk in there like you own the place, because that's just going to go sideways, and that's going to lend to, a shitty permitting situation. And you don't need that, right? Moving on, I'm sure there'll be more that we can cover with municipalities and contractors as well. We're going to loop back a little bit as we start to talk about inspectors. So inspectors, there's a lot that goes into the inspector when we say the word inspector. You have inspector, you have building commissioner that is probably heading the department in some departments. You have admin staff that's there. You may have a zoning enforcement person that's there. So all of those are included in the permitting situation. So I'll just give you some bullet points here to think about when you talk about building officials. And before I do that, remember, I just said building officials are there. They need to be trained, and a lot of municipalities are not supporting them with the training that they need. They need fair wages for what they're doing. They need to make sure they have support, and they need to feel supported within town hall. And they need to pay or give the same respect that they've been given. So bullet points. First and foremost, building officials, we're administrators, and I still consider myself a building official, still certified, still serve in different capacities sometimes. But so the building department, building official, building commissioner first needs to be an administrator, right? And being an administrator, you're not an enforcer yet. The administrator is you're administrating the code. You're knowledgeable about the code. You are assisting people with the code, and you're inspecting according to the code. You're reviewing according to the code. That's the administrative part. You're running a building department, right? Process and procedure. That's the administrative part. Enforcement is second. You do have to enforce. You do have to write violations. There are enforcement matters that come up. But if anybody can do enforcement, anybody, People that aren't certified, people that aren't trained can do enforcement at any time. So you need to be an administrator. And as a building official, you're only as good as the knowledge you have, your ability to carry out your responsibilities, whether it's zoning, whether it's building code. As a building official, you are only as good as your ability to administer and to carry out your responsibilities as a building official. So that's first and foremost. Um, you know, attitude wise, we are out in the field and we meet a lot of different people. And a lot of the interaction is negative. And if you take that negative interaction, I just talked about somebody coming in saying, I want my permit. This is my, right to have this permit. If you take that personally, or somebody comes in and they don't pull a permit, yeah, you have to enforce then, right? They do work without a permit and then they come in after the fact. That happens. That's part of being a building official. Once you start taking those things permanently, and through your mind or through your head or across your lips is, well, they're not pulling one over on me, right? That's when the job gets personal, and then you have less ability to be the administrator and to administer your position and to do your job, right? So, you have to take some things with a grain of salt. It happens. You put yourself in this. You are a public servant. I do not subscribe to I pay your salary, a homeowner coming in, or a contractor or a developer coming in saying I pay your salary. Bullshit. You might, but I also have a responsibility, right? I have a job to do. So you do have that job to do, but don't take it personal. When someone's a jackass, someone's doing something wrong, you can't take it personal. And I think that has some weight on the building officials with how bad this permitting situation is. We talked about the municipality backing the right horse, right? Um, the building official needs to let that stuff slide off their shoulder, right? It's not a personality issue. It's not an ego issue. You just need to be able to administer your position. And if you take it personal, it's not going to work that way. So with that, back to knowledge. The town needs to make sure these inspectors are knowledgeable. They need to give them the support. They need to financially support the building departments. We already said that most building departments make money. That money is there. So give them the money that they're making. I know it goes into general fund, but get them trained. Give them the best training they can. Right? And if you're getting the best training you can, make sure you expand that. Make sure you broaden your knowledge. As a building official, you need to learn every single day. 20 years, I was still learning up until the last day. And the best thing I ever did, we talked about this on a podcast before, is when I first started, in a city, I actually attached myself to a super on a project. It was a large commercial project, who was extremely knowledgeable. He was absolutely brilliant when it came to construction practice, code, whatever it might be. And I attached myself to him. And even though I was the building official, I was learning from him, right? And which leads me to my next and segue into my next. As a building official, we need to step back and always say, I may not be the professional, or I may not be the expert in the room. Somebody else may be here, right? You may be on a post-tension concrete job, and you have somebody who's a builder who's always been on post-tension concrete, and they can give you the information, the knowledge about post-tension concrete, right? You may have somebody that's a wood framer that's on a podium project and has always been on podium projects, or it may be mechanical systems, right? They dropped mechanical on us as building officials years ago, and we didn't know a lot about it. And in fact, I'll tell you, I still don't know a lot about assembling full mechanical systems, even though we have to inspect them. So there may be somebody who's the expert there. So yes, you're the administrator, you're the enforcer at some points, but there are people in the room who may have more knowledge than you. So take that knowledge. When it's available, take the knowledge. So let me just kind of summarize. I know I've been kind of going off here on the inspector. But that's where I'm coming from. That's what I've done for the last 20 years of my life. So the town needs to support the inspectors. The town needs to make sure that they are educated. Needs to make sure they get the training. They need to make sure they get the wages to support the hours and the aggravation that they're dealing with. The town needs to make sure they're backing the right horse when it comes to who's in that building inspector's position. The inspectors need to make sure that they give the respect that they're given, right? Do unto others. I mean, it's kind of the same concept. If you're getting respect, give respect back. I always used to say, when someone, you know, when someone goes and pushes me, I push back. That's when you push back. If someone pushes you intentionally, you push back, right? And sometimes you just have to say, yeah, whatever, right? Tomorrow's another day. We'll do it again tomorrow. Um, Inspectors need to make sure they're looking at themselves as administrators and not just enforcers. Enforcement is easy. Inspectors need to make sure they don't take it personal, because that can just bog things down. If you're taking it personal, like people are pulling one over on you, or you're getting upset with people because they're applying for permits incorrectly, they're not submitting the right documentation, um, understand, right? Understand that, you know, these people are out there actually applying for the permits and doing the right thing. They may not know what they're supposed to do. In fact, it may be somebody that does it wrong every time, but they're applying for the permit. So let's just kind of pull everything together here as far as, responsibility and what do I think is going wrong here. So one, regulations have gotten more and more difficult, and then in turn towns put more and more regulation on the permit application requirement, right? Get a signature from this person, get a signature from that person, submit this piece of paper. Next week, it's this piece of paper added there. So the permit process has, gotten to be very, very difficult. So the municipality needs to make sure they're putting somebody in the building department that can actually advance this and make it easier for the public, make it easier for contractors to secure permits. So they want to secure permits, right? The municipality can also make sure that this is an asset to the town by making sure that the building department is run correctly. Uh, the building official can in turn, make sure that one, every day they're learning, every day they're doing something to advance the department, not just collecting a paycheck, that they're actually making a positive towards, making sure that citizens can secure permits, in a timely manner. Contractors, communication, just make sure you're reaching out, you're trying to get a hold of the administrator or the building official, asking those questions. And then, on the other side, one of the biggest things is learning and understanding. The municipality needs to understand what the building department is doing. It amazes me how many town administrators, or mayors for that matter, are disconnected from what the building department actually deals with on a daily basis. With that said, the inspector needs to be tuned in as well. The inspector needs to, if you're telling somebody you need to submit something in this manner, you should be online as a building official applying for it on a dummy site or on a dummy email address to see what the public's dealing with. Because if I'm telling somebody, hey, do this, submit this, make sure it's uploaded in this manner, I should be able to do that myself. So then I can assist, or I can say to them, no, 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 that's not the way you do it. You do it this way. Administrators, same thing. They should be doing it from the outside, making sure that they understand. And the contractor, right? Lose the attitude. Don't be a jackass. Go in there, you apply for your permits, you make sure you're doing the right thing, you're calling for inspections in a timely manner, you educate yourself on what the requirements are. And the building official, the building department should go ahead and pay you those same respects, that give you the same respect in return. So I know that was a long rant. It probably covered an eighth of what what we could get into as far as ins and outs of the building department. But I'd be interested to hear from you all. I know this is long. The audio on this is probably going to be more valuable than the video, so hopefully we'll post this in a podcast and you can listen to this. So reach out, tell me what you think. If you have hurt feelings, I apologize. I'm telling you how it is. I kept it tame actually on the municipality side. I kept it tame on the contractor side, and I kept it tame on the inspector side because it could go a lot deeper. But that's not what we're here for. I think a lot more can be done to make the permitting process better. And one of the biggest things is not saying we've always done it this way. It's having the flexibility and the ability to go ahead and change the process and change the way you look at things to make what you're doing better and more available to the public. Because inevitably, that's what it comes down to. The public being able to secure permits the public being able to obtain inspections from your department and the municipality backing that up. So, I know that was a lot. Thank you, everybody. I look forward to hearing some questions on this and getting some feedback on it. So feel free to contact me, Mike at massconstruction.org or at massconmike on Instagram, or you can go to LinkedIn, and I'll put all these links up here, and go to Mike Yanovich or Michael Yanovich on LinkedIn. So thank you, and I'll talk to you all soon.